Edgar Cayce, the most prolific psychic of the 20th century, amassed a collection of over 14,000 psychic readings from 1901 to 1945. Not only could he journey into others' past lives, he could also peer through the windows of time and warn of unsettling visions of the future ahead. Many of these events have already come to pass, while other predictions of a more apocalyptic nature still threaten the world today.
What is the coastline now of many a land will be in the bed of the ocean.
Cayce warned the signs would be out there, many surfacing in this new millennium. Now that the time is upon us, have we learned anything from his words? Or are we closer to this age of destruction than ever? What starts out as an average reading for trans-psychic Edgar Cayce takes an unsettling turn when Cayce is asked about a man relocating from New York to California.
Los Angeles, San Francisco, these will be among those that will be destroyed. What is the coastline now of many a land will be the bed of the ocean.
For thousands of years, people have been predicting the end of the world and the signs that will foreshadow it. As our planet continues to exhibit unprecedented volatile changes, many search for answers in the readings of the most prolific American psychic of the 20th century, Edgar Cayce. In a self-induced trance state, Edgar Cayce channels information from beyond. But how did Cayce discover his extraordinary gift? Edgar Cayce is just 24 years old when he develops a debilitating case of laryngitis. On the advice of a friend, he visits a hypnotist. While in a hypnotic trance, Cayce suddenly describes the root of his condition and how to fix it. Upon awakening, Cayce retains full use of his voice. It is an incredible turn of events. He has revealed for the first time a unique connection to knowledge from a mysterious source and how to channel this new voice.
Early on in his career, Edgar Cayce worked as a photographer, giving readings, giving these health readings on the side when he could fit it in. And he did 2 or 3 very almost unbelievable medical readings. And word got out, word grew, it spread. A reporter for the New York Times heard about it and ran a front-page story, and all of a sudden the requests started pouring in, far more than he could accommodate. It was a struggle for Edgar Cayce because he believed that this was a gift from God and he wanted to help these people.
When people would go to Edgar Cayce, they would give him little bits of information. What he would do was go into a sleep state, but not go to sleep. He'd be in this semi-conscious state. Then when he'd draw from it, he would tell people information that he was getting in this disassociative state. He would see a golden light, and then he would elaborate on those little tidbits of information that he'd received about their health, about their wealth, and about the future.
But this psychic gift comes at great cost to Cayce when his spontaneous visions give insight into the grim future of others. One night, while at a party, Edgar Cayce sees a group of men when a prophetic vision overtakes him. In his heart, he knows that these men will soon be enlisted in the war, and 3 of them will not make it home. But Cayce perseveres.
70 years after Edgar Cayce's death, his readings still resonate. It started out with the accuracy of the medical readings, which have now all proven to be correct. And because those have proven to be correct, people are paying much more attention to his more prophetic readings, to the world affairs readings, the readings on future world events.
For most people, it's impossible to imagine the west coast of North America disappearing into the ocean, killing millions. From a man whose readings were so often accurate, this is a terrifying prophecy. Can we stop the widespread death and destruction foretold by Edgar Cayce? Twentieth-century psychic Edgar Cayce makes many frightening predictions about the future of mankind. Although dead for more than half a century, his followers still believe the answers to the fate of the human race are contained within his prophetic words. Words from beyond.
3 people were involved in an Edgar Cayce reading. It would be Edgar Cayce, who would put himself into trance, a conductor, oftentimes Gertrude, his wife, a stenographer, Gladys Davis. Edgar Cayce would lay back, put himself into a trance, and there would be a 30-second window in which Gertrude could put a question to Edgar Cayce. And if she managed to put that question in at the right moment, the most amazing information would come from Edgar Cayce. All Edgar Cayce needed to give a reading was the name of a specific person and where that person was at that specific moment in time. With that information, Edgar Cayce would be able to do a full physical. Red blood count, white blood count, body temperature. He would literally go organ by organ through a person's body, diagnosing illness with the specificity of a physician.
But to skeptics, Cayce represents little more than a well-meaning man with a misguided sense of his own supernatural capabilities.
I think Edgar Cayce was a fantasy-prone personality and a product of his time. He probably heard voices, or at least had thoughts running through his head that he expressed in ways that most people don't, and it caught on with the zeitgeist of his time. I think from a modern medical perspective, our take would be that Edgar Cayce had some kind of temporal lobe anomalies that generated these thoughts and voices in his head that he expressed in these readings. Did he believe it? Probably. You know, I mean, self-deception's a powerful force. It makes you a much more effective prophet if you believe your own story.
What about the documented successes that Cayce's health readings achieved? Many have proven helpful.
What we have to remember is that there's a statistical effect here, that by chance he's going to get some hits based on the law of large numbers. If you give enough readings, and he gave over 14,000 readings, just by chance you're going to get some hits. Then on top of that, you give generalities that are true for most people.
Dr. David Lane also sees a logical explanation in the meaning people find in Cayce's readings.
Human beings are meaning-seeking creatures. And so it makes a lot of sense that if somebody goes to see Edgar Cayce, they're looking for some kind of purpose in their life. And he fulfilled it by telling them things they didn't know about themselves, whether it was about their future or whether it was about their health.
Because Edgar Cayce's medical readings were so accurate and so successful, people gradually started asking other kinds of questions. First it was for a lost pocket watch, then a wedding ring, then the topics started expanding. Edgar Cayce one day got a request from a Texas oilman. They had drilled a well and hadn't struck oil. Edgar Cayce came back with information to go down exactly 231 feet and explode a vial of nitroglycerin, and that's exactly what the oilman did. And voila, he got a gusher.
If he could locate oil, could Cayce also apply his ability to another speculative venture, the stock market?
One of the businessmen who came to Edgar Cayce for advice was a stockbroker in New York named Morton Blumenthal. Morton Blumenthal ultimately obtained over 200 readings on specific stocks. And using Edgar Cayce's trance advice, Morton Blumenthal became a millionaire.
But the financial readings take a terrible toll on Cayce, causing him severe and debilitating headaches. a reminder perhaps that he should be using his gifts for the greater good. And soon, his readings take a darker turn to deadly horrors few could ever imagine. American psychic Edgar Cayce was gaining international recognition for his occult talents. It would seem there were no limits to his vision.
Edgar Cayce solved several crimes. One of the most notable, the murder of an elderly woman who lived with her sister. He was asked specifically to identify who her killer was, who was presumed to be still at large. Edgar Cayce came back with quite a story. According to Cayce, the younger sister in her youth was eagerly awaiting a marriage proposal, a proposal that she believed had never come. In actuality, her suitor had written a letter proposing marriage, and her older sister, out of jealousy, had never shared it. Many years elapsed, and the younger sister actually found the letter that she had always believed would one day come. And she was so irate at her sister that she shot her. Edgar Cayce went even further by describing where the police could find the murder weapon. The younger sister had thrown the pistol out the window. It had slid down the side of the roof and landed in the gutter, which was exactly where the police had found it.
It is an act of insight that defies explanation, but one that pales in comparison to the harrowing journey ahead. Arthur Lammers encourages Cayce to explore new and uncharted territory. Lammers had explored mysticism, but now he is able to investigate on a much deeper level through Edgar Cayce. But Cayce is deeply disturbed by these readings, which seem to support occult beliefs and unchristian thought. He is especially torn by information given him on reincarnation. Cayce's reincarnation readings are well documented. One man who visited Cayce for a life reading was passionate about railroads and the Civil War. He was told by Cayce that he had been a railroad man by profession, as well as a soldier in General Robert E. Lee's army. Cayce even went as far as to give him the name he had at the time, Barnett C. The man was able to verify the existence of this soldier and even locate his grave. When asked where he was getting his information from, Cayce cited the subconscious mind of his subject, as well as another, more esoteric source, the Akashic Records.
Edgar Cayce described the Akashic Records as a history of the world. It was like a giant library, and in that library, each soul had an individual volume. Each soul, each person. And you could open that volume and read not only about their present life, but their past and their past lives.
It is through the same channel into the past that Cayce is able to get a glimpse into the future. But it is not a journey without misgivings. A German-American family visits Cayce in 1932, wondering if they should move back to Germany. They are shaken by his words.
As to the affairs of an international nature, these we find are in a condition of great anxiety on the part of many, not only as individuals, but as to nations. This will make for the taking of sides by various groups or countries or governments. This will be indicated by the Austrians, Germans, and later the Japanese joining in their influence.
The events unfolded just as Cayce predicted, but his skeptics counter that one need only look to the tensions simmering in Europe after World War I to make similar claims.
If you look at it from a more critical perspective, there's not one reading that could not have been accessed from information that he got from his friends, from his family, or from his voracious reading.
Whether from news outlets or other, more mystical sources, Cayce's vision of the future was an ominous one. His next prediction was one that would bring tragedy much closer to home. According to Edgar Cayce, 2 presidents will die before their time in office is over. Within 5 years, the first part of the prediction comes true when Franklin D. Roosevelt passes away while still in office. Less than 2 decades after Cayce's prediction, a fateful day in Dallas, Texas, would see the second part of Cayce's tragic prophecy fulfilled. But Cayce's window into the future reveals events ever more sinister and deadly, pointing to a world in which we can either change or die. Renowned clairvoyant Edgar Cayce polarized many people with his extraordinary claims of seeing the past and into the future. 7 decades after his death, his followers still believe his messages have relevance in our world today. Cayce predicts a series of signs will signal that the transformation to the New World Order is beginning. He foresees catastrophic destruction from one coast of North America to the other. But what are the signs, and have they begun? Cayce points to the South Pacific as being a major indicator of Earth change activity. In 2011 alone, New Zealand was hit with 5 earthquakes, the biggest in February, which causes dozens of fatalities and billions of dollars in damage. He also predicts volcanic activity in the Mediterranean. As seismic activity continues to grow around Italy and Greece, one can only wonder, a coincidence or a foreshadowing of disastrous things to come?
And there will then be the shifting of the poles, so that where there has been a frigid or a semi-tropical climate, there will be a more tropical one.
In this 21st century, climate change and global warming have become commonplace. The 1900s were documented as the warmest century of the last 1,000 years. 20% of the floating ice layer has also been reduced in the Arctic. And with extreme climate comes extreme weather patterns, hurricanes, drought, flooding. On December 26, 2004, an earthquake triggers a devastating tsunami that kills 230,000 people in Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand. If these events that Cayce predicted more than half a century ago have already happened, is it now too late to stop the path we are on? Cayce predicted that a new age would coincide with the beginning of this earth change period. For those that believe in Cayce's vision of the future, it is a shifting of consciousness towards believing that our connectedness to each other eclipses our importance as individuals.
Edgar Cayce said that there was nothing more important, no higher ideal than the brotherhood of man, than the recognition of the global community, about how interrelated we are together.
But Cayce also believed that many of these apocalyptic events could be avoided if the human race saw his prophecies for what they are: warnings. Perhaps humanity has seen the emerging signs and will prevent these disasters from happening. It would seem not. Maybe we have reached the point of no return.
Los Angeles, San Francisco, These will be among those that will be destroyed before New York or New York City itself will disappear.
Can the words of this extraordinary, long-dead prophet help us find our way to a more just society, a more just world?
Cayce scholars today understand the readings in a different perspective than we ever have before. We understand the future is not set in stone, that there are ways that we can change the future, that by what we hold in our head and in our hearts. There was no higher ideal than the brotherhood of man, that this was the way we make our own future, that this was the way we save ourselves and save mankind.
By the fall of 1944, Cayce is exhausted and his health is failing. On September 17, 1945, he lies down to give what will be the last reading of his life, his own. 4 months later, as he predicted, Edgar Cayce dies of a stroke and is laid to rest on January 5th. Cayce prophesied that only after great upheaval will the New World Order begin, a world where the collective consciousness values all life, where love for one another and our world is the highest goal.
I'm often asked if we should put our faith and believe in the words of a clairvoyant who died some 70 years ago, begging us to believe in a higher ideal of the brotherhood of man. I would respond by asking, can we afford not to?